Good morning. We started yesterday a Hasidic discourse that was said in 1970, based on a Hasidic discourse that was said in 1920 or 1919. The day of this Maimon was said on the 20th of Cheshvan, 20th of Mar Cheshvan, and originally it was said on the birthday of the 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Shalom Dober. And that was pretty much the year of his passing, meaning when he said originally the Maimer, said for his birthday. I think he passed away that year. So the Maimer starts off with the pasuk in chapter 111, chapter 8. It says that Semuchim Laad Lo'olam, steadfast forever, and they're made with righteousness and truth. That's the translation of the pasuk. So the Rebbe Rashab, 5th Lubavitcher Rebbe, said this Maimon on his birthday, as I said. And he started off this Maimon with this pasuk because Samech stands for 60. So he became 60 years old, passed away early. So he said this Maimon for his birthday. Then we mentioned two interpretations of the word Samech. The letter Samech. Samech could mean help, Ezer. Somech Noflim, helping out. But in this context, the first interpretation is it's not helping those who fall. There's two kinds of help. There's helping somebody is already a faller, somebody is falling. Help him not to fall more. Ezer is that you giving such help that you're not just stopping the deterioration, so to speak, stopping the fall. Rather, the help that you're providing changes his state. The person who needs help completely changes his situation. Like we use the example of someone doesn't have a car. So the one help, he says, "Oh, I need to get somewhere. Why can't you go away?" So I don't have a car. So you take him. You gave him a ride. That's Semech Neiflim. But there's a help that you give him a car. So now he doesn't need. He's in a different place. He can go anywhere. He doesn't have to ask favors. It's a completely different type. So that's Ezer, which hinted in the letter Samech. Somech is helping. It says in the Torah when Hashem created Adam and Chava, he said Ezer kenegdo, I'll make a helper. Ezer, use the word Ezer. What is the Ezer? To have him a wife that she'll help him. But in regard to husband and a wife, it's actually interesting because it says kenegdoi, that the wife is kenegdoi, is not the help doesn't stop by helping him to get to where he needs to get, but it also helps him to correct his deficiencies and other things. So sometimes she would notice things, she would point things out, that is because she's in front of him, kenegdoi, she's capable of getting it. So Hashem is putting these two people together to help each other be better people. So, but the point over here is Ezer is help to a level that he is completely out of his situation, not just holding it, not just stopping the fall, but rather completely taking him out of it. So with the Ezer, with the help, you're reaching a level that you couldn't reach by yourself. And the Gemara also says about the Yetzer Hara. So the Gemara says that if not for Hashem's help, no one would be able to handle the Yetzer Hara. Gemara in Sukkah 52. The Gemara says that you could not handle your Yetzer Hara by yourself. You need Hashem's help. And even the time of exile, that assembly of the Jewish people, Knesset Yisrael, the Jewish people as a whole, spiritually. What do I mean spiritually? The source of Knesset Yisrael. You have the actual physical Jewish people, and you have the source of their neshamas above. There's in a state of descent, state of nefila. In the time of exile, it says about we say it in Sukkah's David Hanefeles, the Sukkah of David that is fallen. So again, reference to Knesset Yisrael, Malchus, Knesset Yisrael, that descended below, and so therefore it needs Ezer, needs Soimach, needs Samach. It needs a help from a place that is higher to help it get up from his descent, and to also take it to a higher place. Then the Rebbe Rashab brings in the Zohar, it says the word afar simun. He uses the word afar simun. Afar simun is a parsimon, right? It's a fruit. Seasonal food. Say is very healthy to eat. And this farsimon, it has mem and samach. So he explains the two kinds of each letter. So each letter relate to something else. You have mem is tevuna, and samach is bina. What's the difference between bina and tevuna? So he explains that he starts off with the Maimer starts off with bina. So he tells you what is bina. Bina, Moshe Klov Chinas Chachma, Chinas Chachma Bina Eloi. So he explained that there are two levels in Chachma and Bina. There is higher ones and lower ones. What makes higher and lower? So it's actually interesting. It says that there is Yichud Pnimi, there's inner union of Chachma and Bina. So since it's an inner union between the two, inner bond between the two, so therefore the drawdown from one to the other is happening from a higher source. Meaning, let's say Chochmah is A and Bina is B. So if the bond between the two, between A and B, is very strong, it's very real, is inner, so then since the relationship is so deep, the drawdown from one to the other would be from the innermost of Chochmah to the innermost of Bina. Right? Like we call it many times in Chassidut, face-to-face relationship. Right? The innermost would give the innermost. What is the innermost of Chochmah? It's really the Keter.
Also Bina, no? That's really where the innermost.
Right. Yeah. So one would give to the other, the innermost would give. Now, when there is external union, so the outer level of Chachma would give the outer level of Bina. Okay? So instead of inner, outer. That's the difference between the two. But I would say the Chidush over here is that when the union between Chokhmah and Bina is real, is not saying both cases it's real, but it's inner. He says that the flow would come from Keter, not Keter of Chokhmah, Keter that is above Chokhmah, completely from a higher level, from a higher source. And then he goes to say that this is the difference between the Mem and the Samach. The difference between the Mem and the Samach. Like the difference between Makif Karov and Makif Rachok. What's the difference between Makif Karov and Makif Rachok? He says Makif Karov is like your clothing. Your clothing is surrounding you, but it's not in you. Food is something that you take in, right? Food is pnimi, inner, because you take it, you digest it, it becomes part of you. Clothing that do not become part of you, you wear them, you take them off. You wear them, you take them off. So why we call them Makif Karov? Because they fit you. They're according to you. They're clothing to your size. Okay? So they're not just any kind of, like not taking a sheet and you're putting it over yourself, you're putting something that fits you. So that's Makif Karov. So it has some kind of closeness to Pnimi. It's not inner, but it has some closeness. So it's Makif Karov. And then you have Makif Rachok, is like a house or building. Like this is Makif Rachok. It fits everybody. It doesn't make a difference. If you weigh 200 pounds or 500 pounds, still you can go into the room, big doors, fits everyone. So Makif Rachok does not have any closeness to the Pnimi, to the inner, to be digested, so to speak. Makif Karov has a little bit more connection with being digested. It's not going to be digested, but it's close. It's more closer to it. It's not like crazy idea, so to speak. And what that has to do with us? So the relationship between Chokhmah and Bina, when it's inner, right? Keter would give Bina. That's the Makif HaRachok. And the relationship of outer and outer, in this case, is with a closer Makif. Right? And he says it like this.
Why it's so important for me to know what's Makif Karov, Makif Rachok?
It's not very... Oh, it's just a Ma'amar. We're learning what it says in the Ma'amar.
בסדר גמור, I love the מאמר. רק למה אני חושב שצריכה לדעת את זה? מה אני צריך? מה חשוב בזה?
It's really telling you how Hashem is. In essence, we're learning about Hashem. So it tells us how Hashem is affecting the world. Hashem. So Hashem is giving the world life in two different ways. Is giving life in many different ways, but primarily is giving life through Chayut Pnimi, which is Makif Karov, which is Memale, he's inner, he's giving you life particularly to you, individually, and then he gives you life in a Makif type of a way. So godly energy comes in two different ways in general. Pnimi and Makif. Okay? So when Hashem gives you life, right? And everybody knows they get their life from Hashem. How is it coming from Hashem? So it tells you in two different ways. One, there is chayut to you, specifically as a person. It says in the Gemara, B'shvili nivra olam, means to you, there is one specific chayut that comes to you. Designed to you, level, to your capability, exactly for you. Exactly for you. Then there is chayut that surrounds you, that is around you, it does not go into you, and he gives it to everybody equally, like the sun. The sun shines whether you live in a trailer home or $30 million home. The sun would shine the same way. Rain, same way. But when it comes to specific knowledge, specific power, specific distance, each one has his own thing. Each person has his own uniqueness, right? That's why they say in Mishnah that Ezu Chacham Lomed Mikol Adam. should learn from anybody, because each one could be rich in one area, and the other could be poor in another area, right? One guy could be rich in money, but can be poor in knowledge. One guy can be rich in knowledge and poor in money. One guy can be rich in this, and one guy has good hands, the other guy doesn't have good hands. Each one has something that. So where is it coming from that you have something that I don't have? Because of the chayut that you're receiving, chayut pnimi. Okay? Because that specific chayut. So it tells us about different levels that are happening upstairs, but really they are influencing us down here. So we started off with this afar simon. Interesting that the word afar simon is also was oil that was made from afar simon to anoint kings. Right? Kings were anointed with this oil, shemen afar simon.
That comes from fruit?
Yeah, the parsimon fruit.
Oh yeah, they're like tomato, it looks like.
Right. So.
Right?
Yes, so they make oil from it, very expensive oil, and they would pour it on the kings, anoint king. But over here he says that this afar simon has samech and mem. These two letters, samech and mem. So what's the samech and what's the mem? We said one is associated with bina and one is associated with tvuna. So bina is the inner union, pnimi, where a keter would give to bina, and the second one is tvuna. What is tvuna? So he writes.
And keter, umakiv, pnim, chitzoni.
Keter is makif, yes.
Chitzoni.
Yeah, because it surrounds the head.
Around it.
Around the head.
Yes, sir.
But keter itself has two levels. With a keter, there's the inside of the keter, and there's the outside of the keter. So the inside of the keter is called atik yomin, atik.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. And the outside of the keter is called arich. So if you receive from the inner of the keter, it's the makif harachok. If you receive from the outside of the keter, is the makif hakarov. Although it's karov to you, it's closer to you, but it's only the external keter. But to receive from the inner keter, I think in the Zohar he calls it Livna de Golgolta. He has a name for the inner level of keter.
But they didn't decorate the inside of the keter, right? It was only the
No,
outside that's pretty and beautiful.
Obviously, it's not keter. It's keter stands for 620. The Gematria of 620 commandments of the Torah, because they came from the will of Hashem. So the keter is will. It's not physical keter. It's just the something that represents it's two things. It's above the head. It represents beauty, right? It's above, right? But the idea that it's above the head, and what the head is chokhmah. What is head and chokhmah? Something above the. What's above the head? Keter, the crown, right?
We have Rabbeinu. That's why there's a difference in the word hod, hodo, and hodu.
Yeah.
If you say to hodo, means the keter
Right.
is hod. When you say hodu, to
Thank.
thank,
Yeah.
to thank.
Yeah.
There's a difference here when you
Of course,
say
of course, yeah. Of course. Hebrew is a tricky language. If you add one letter or even if you pronounce one letter in one way or another, it makes a big difference. Could make a difference in the meaning most of the time. If you say maim or moim, there's no difference. If you say power, there's no difference. It's the same. But many times there is a difference. Say vayomer or vayomar is a difference. Just an example. But anyway, so what is the vayanu the samach? So we said samach is bina is similar to makif harachok, Why? Because it doesn't have any grasping, any inner grasping, meaning it doesn't have any connection with pnimi. It's a pure makif that it has no connection with pnimi. The mem, the tvuna, already is makif akarov. It has some kind of, like the clothing, it has some kind of relationship to pnimi. It's not pnimi, it's not being digested, but it has closeness to it.
The two letters are like almost identical. I confuse them all the time.
And he speaks about them that in the mem, he writes, Yesh bait pashtut, it has an expansion, the way it's written in the Torah. And it said because of it, it can come to be settled. On the other hand, the samech is complete round. And it said round cannot sit anywhere. A circle cannot sit anywhere. It's like a ball. A ball is not stationary. It's always moving around, right? So, which is coming to tell us about the type of makif that it is. What the type of the samech, what type? Because remember, this whole ma'amar is based on the pasuk Semuchim Laad leolam. Semuchim, samech, and he emphasized the word samech. We'll soon see how it's all connected with the parasha. It's very interesting. Then he brings another pasuk in Tehillim, which was from the year before. Kuf Yud from capital Kuf Yud 110, and it says over there, Ata Kohen Leolam. And it's a very interesting chapter in Tehillim. It speaks about this whole chapter, according to the Zohar. It speaks about Avraham Avinu. The whole chapter speaks about Avraham Avinu. And there is other interpretations that the pasuk is actually speaking about. The chapter is speaking about Yehuda and David. Yehuda and David. So it says, the pasuk says Ata, and soon we're going to see how we connect the two interpretations, Yehuda and David, to Avraham Avinu. Because the pasuk says Ata Kohen Leolam, you are a priest forever, and we know that Yehuda, Yaakov Avinu blessed Yehuda, Ata yoducha achecha, your brothers will admit to you, you will be the king, you'll be the ultimate king, and your children will continue to be the king forever. All the melucha comes from the tribe of Yehuda, the continuation of David HaMelech. And it says, why? And I'm giving you just the gist of it. It says, why Ata Kohen Leolam, you are a priest forever to David, because you chose the path of Avraham Avinu. What is the path of Avraham Avinu? So he writes that Avraham Avinu, the Zohar writes it, Kashrat b'chesed Avraham. He says, the reason why you'll be a king forever, because you connected yourself, you bonded yourself to the chesed of Avraham Avinu. Your melucha, your kingship is established, is based on chesed. If it's based on chesed, you will last forever. But if it's based on gevurah, you're not going to make it. So,
יש פה אחד איפה שאתה עומד, אני יכול להשתמש איתו?
Yes, please.
תודה לך חברי.
So that's pretty much the idea of it. Then we brought up a pasuk. The Maimon bring a pasuk in Nehemiah, and he says again, you'll see the difference between one letter and between having the letter there or not having the letter there. So pasuk says, Ato avai levadecho. Ato avai levadecho, which means you Hashem by yourself. You Hashem alone. That's one pasuk. Then there's another pasuk that says, Ato, you asita es hashomayim ve'esoros. You created the heaven and the earth. Interestingly, Nehemiah writes the first statement, Ato avai levadecho aleph taf hey, Ato. And the second pasuk, Ato osisos hashomayim v'sa'oretz, you created the heaven and the earth, Aleph Taf, without the Hey. It sounds the same, Ato, but one is with the Hey and one without the Hey. And he says, and therefore, our job in the world is to bring this revelation of Ato, the complete one. There's something missing when it comes to the heaven and the earth. The one that it says, Ato Hashem levadecha, you Hashem by yourself, it says with the Hey. The one that says, you created the heaven and the earth, says without the Hey. Ato, Aleph Taf. So he says, our job is to bring the revelation of the Hey, of Ato, into the world. We'll see what it means. He says, when it says it with a Hey, it's referring to a great revelation into Malchus. He says the difference between the two is inconceivable, it's incomparable. Why? Because when it says Aleph Taf Hey Ato, it's telling us about a level of the infinite light of Hashem that existing before the world came into being. So the energy that, in simple words, the energy that pervaded the world, that there was no world, but the energy that existed, let's call it the dominating energy in the space, right? Or it says, Ruach Elikim merachefes al pnei hamayim. The Spirit of God is hovering over the water. We don't know what it is, but we know the Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, without any limitations, was all over the place. So when we say Ato, this is the level, Ein Sof. Before any kind of modifications, okay? For any kinds of contractions, limitations, and so on. And another point that he makes about this concept, so when we say Ato Hashem levadecha, you Hashem by yourself, we're referring to that level, to Ein Sof, before any kind of limitations. When we say At, we'll say Aleph Taf without the Hey, it's referring to the light, the Ein Sof also, but after the contraction. So one is before the world was, the infinite light of Hashem was contracted and moved aside. That's the language of Silik, oil is moved it aside. Obviously, it's so to speak, you cannot understand it figuratively, but moved aside. And the light that after the Tzimtzum is Ato without the Hey. And then he explains that there's really, it's from the Tzemach Tzedek, that if you think of Aleph Taf means that it's from A to Z, Aleph to Taf, meaning that it's a complete package. But he says it's a complete package missing 5 things. Because the Hey is 5, so it has to missing 5 things. And he explains that in the creation, in the Ein Sof, and generally in all the levels, there's something called Chamisho Partzufim, the 5 images, 5 faces, 5. What is the 5 faces? It's the will, the wisdom, the emotions, the speech, and the action. These are the 5 things. And these 5 things are lacking with you have created the heaven and the earth. Ato sisos hashomayim v'sa'oretz. He explains that since it says ato without the hey, so the 5 partsufim are deficient. Maybe they're existing on a certain level, but there is certain deficiency in them.
Isn't one male and one female? Like if you're telling someone, what did you say for a female at and for a man ata or something like that? Or is that different?
You're right. In the pronouncing is ata and at. So a woman is at. But over here, calling Hashem ato as masculine. So why is he writing without a hey when it comes to the heaven and the earth? There's other places where it's written. There's another verses where it's written with the hey. But he says the reason when it says without the hey in regard to the heaven and the earth, it says that there is deficiency of 5 faces. There's 5 things, and through the fulfillment of Torah mitzvahs, we can so to speak, correct it, fix it. This is really the intent, to draw down from above and to reveal in the world these 5 images: the will, the wisdom, the emotions, the speech, and the action. And bring it into Malchus, because Malchus is deficient of it primarily. That's why they use the expression that someone became weak as a female. If he's missing, so like you said, the at is the female,
Right.
ata is the masculine. So if you are giving it back to hey, you're giving it back its masculinity, its strength, right? But the point is that Hashem created the world in that specific power, limited, we'll call it, Ein Sof is not limited, but it's modified Ein Sof, that the world could handle that. Why did he have to do it that way? Because the world could not handle the original light that existed, the Ein Sof before the contraction. So what are we saying in the Maimon? That although it was created with this light, but we want to reintroduce the original light. So, but the world cannot handle it. He said, no. Once the world is created, now we can reintroduce it again. The world can take it. In order for it to be created, the world could not handle it. But now that the world was created, it could handle it. So our job is to reintroduce that Ein Sof light that existed before the tzimtzum, before the contraction.
Now it's had time to stretch a little bit, so it can, potato the...
Possibly.
It's time.
What does it mean? And now, it means on a practical level, it would mean to reveal the 5 images, to add the hay, to have the hay in there. We see it in Avram. Completely changes when hay was added to his name. Sarah completely changes, everything changes when the hay was added to her name. So we'll continue, but we'll tomorrow.
The 5 reminds of